I'm gonna hand it over to Josh now because he loves Big Train and he's the guy who pretty much got me onto this amazing band, and he has some questions for you about your time with Big Train.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I guess we'll start with the Underfall Yard, which was not just the beginning for you, but really kind of the beginning of Big Train as a lot of people know it now. Was it Rob Aubrey or Andy Poole or Greg who brought you guys on, who brought you on for that album, and what made you want to join full time?
Yeah, well, first of all, it was David Longdon who got me involved with it. David and I have been friends for a number of years, and he'd been telling me about his band that he'd been guesting on. He'd been to Rob Aubrey's studio to do a vocal for or to do some vocals for Martin Orford's last album, The Old Road, and that's how Rob had been able to recommend David to Greg Sporton as a possible singer for Big Train. So David was the first one in there, and he said, "I've been doing these. I've been doing these vocals for these guys, and we're looking for players, just as guests to do a couple of solos here and there, and wonder if you might like to contribute some guitar to one of these songs." So I said, "Sure, well, just send it to me, and let's see what hear what it sounds like, and see if I can do something with it." Because at the time I just got together with Tin Spirits. That was just about, I was working with those guys and getting to feel my way around how they worked. So Big Train, Tin Spirits pretty much kicked off at around the same time. So they sent me this track, a long song called time it was called End of the Line. And Greg Sporton said, "Yeah, we need a solo, sort of a slowly building solo." From about halfway through this track, it was about 6 minutes of playing, and no one's ever asked me to play that much guitar solo. But I thought, all right, if that's what you want, I'll give it a bash. So I sent a demo of what I'd done. I did the main solo. It's on the album. It's The Last Train, and I played that. I sent them a demo together with a whole bunch of Ebo stuff. I did a little choir of Ebo guitar as well for that song. And they loved it. And so I said, well, okay, book the studio then. I'll come down and play it for real. Oh, no, we'll just take your demo. So, you sure? So this is how this whole internet remote working thing started for me. I said, well, if you're sure, I'll just make a WAV file and post it to you. And they flew it in, and that's how it is on the record. It's my demo. So I thought, this is going to be easy. This is a great way of working. I no longer have to load my car with God knows how many guitars and amps, drive 100 miles, unload it, pile into a room with a bunch of strangers, have to, do whatever I can while I'm still, when I'm half asleep, and hopefully hope that something good can come out of it. Now, if this is the way forward, I can work from home and do all this in my own time and do a decent job. That's how it all started. And eventually they said, well, we've got a couple more songs. Can you play on this? The next thing I think the next thing I did was Master James of St. George. I did a lot of guitars on that. And Evening Star as well. I did quite a lot of stuff there. And again, it was great because it was quote unquote prog. There were no real boundaries. It was just, let's just do something. Let's just throw something at it and see what sticks. And so, I had a little electric sitar that I used, and some odd effects. I was using a rotary effect on a Rickenbacker guitar that's quite colourful. And so gradually I ended up, you know, doing a sort of patchwork of guitar solos and sounds right throughout that album. They had a couple of other really killer soloists. Francis Dunnery did a little solo on the title track, and Andy Tillison did an amazing couple of keyboard solos as well. Though there's no way I can compete with those guys. However, I can play some blues guitar. It's like a 20-minute track, as you probably know.
Mm.
So all the little blues guitar stuff and all the stuff that dances around the vocals at the end and the electric sitar as well, that was all my stuff. So that kind of, the album came out with way more of my stuff on it than anyone imagined there would be. And so I suppose that people just assumed that I was now a full-time member. I mean, the band at the time was just Andy Poole, Greg Sport, and David Longdon. Those three guys, their pictures appeared in the publicity. Everyone else was like guest, quote unquote. And after 11 years, turns out I was still a guest.
Oh, yeah.
8 albums, 11 years, I'm still a guest.
Yeah, well, it's funny because there's material like I think they've just brought out Ingenious Devices, which I think is still some stuff that from like the last years of when you were quote unquote in the band, and like even this special edition, there's some re-recordings of Under Full Yard and Victorian Brickwork and stuff. So was that all kind of done remotely?
From my point of view, yes, it was. I'm not sure. I think I've got a feeling it was all done remotely. Yes, I think it must have been. I can't remember a studio session being booked. They only started booking studio sessions after lockdown, and yeah, because of course it was lockdown that really, drew a halt to the whole upward trajectory of the band at the time. It really just killed everything stone dead. It's such a shame. But Ingenious Devices, I was very pleasantly surprised by that, because we've done re-recordings of East Coast Racer, but of course this one had a string arrangement that in fact I did most of. I arranged most of the strings on East Coast Racer that was recorded at Abbey Road, and then Danny Manners took the coda and developed it into this amazing finale. He did such a marvelous job with that. So he got a co-write, Danny. I'm glad to say he was given a co-write for doing that. And then he said, well, look, this has to end triumphantly. We need a guitar solo. So can you write a guitar solo for the end section? I said, yeah, happy to do that. And so I recorded that. We'd actually rehearsed and played it live prior to recording for this latest release. So we knew exactly what we had to do. I'd already written this. It's not an improvised solo by any means. There's no way I could think around all those modulations that Danny wrote. I had to write something and learn to play it. And so that's how that was. That's how it was done. I did it upstairs in my little studio.
Incredible! It's great to see that you're still kind of in that circle, and I'm definitely going to have to check that one out.
Yeah, I was very happy with how it turned out because they'd also upgraded Brooklands, which is another of Sportland's epics, and I think Rachel Hall did the strings for that. But again, they were recorded at Abbey Road with this big 17-piece section. A glorious day, I have to say, because I was there when they were recorded, and to sit in Studio 2 and hear the strings as I always imagined they should have been heard back before the band had any money to spend on musicians and studio time. So it was a real joy. I mean, I was on the edge of tears listening to some of that stuff while it was being played in that probably the most magical room in the country.
Was there a memorable gig from your entire career that maybe strikes you the most?
Well, I think the one that more recently that will always stick in my memory was Big Train's performance at the Loreley Festival in 2018. And sometimes magic happens and you just get so immersed and taken up with it, and it changes your life in a way. I'm so glad that I was there for that, and that we just pulled that off pretty much flawlessly. It's a big ask, we were playing to an audience that was not a Big Train audience, They were prog fans. They were there for a festival with a lot of other acts. And while we were top of the bill for the Friday night, didn't guarantee you were going to be, you go over. So that was kind of joy that most from the get-go, the audience was with us and they just carried us through, and everyone played great. Brass band were magnificent. This is the other thing. 5 brass players with a rock band sitting there, music stands. Is this going to work? Will it actually? How is this going to work? Well, they're so brilliant as players, so disciplined. It just lifted everything. As soon as I can remember, they came on for the second song at Folklore, and the minute that they struck up, gigs started. Nothing can go wrong. Something did go wrong, but it didn't matter. It was just a magnificent show. So I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to be there for that. The great thing about it as well, the Summer Shall Not Fade Blu-ray, as it were, they had maybe 4 or 5 cameras. They were filming everybody. The people who Loreley, they had their own. It was part of the show was that everything would be filmed, and I think the promoters decided that anything filmed the bands could buy afterwards if they felt they needed it to exploit. So that's basically how that happened. And but they all seemed to have, even though they'd never heard set and didn't know what we were going to be playing, it was all edited together perfectly. Everyone got proper share of camera time. They didn't miss many cues at all. Maybe because there were enough cameras to cover everything. But we were so lucky to have been able to secure the rights to it and put it out, because, like you say, and I also think it's a really, really wonderful tribute to how brilliant and powerful David Longdon was. Because we haven't spoken about that so far. It's devastating what happened to him. We couldn't ever have prepared ourselves for that. I mean, this happened after I'd quit. But just the same, I felt it deeply. What do you mean he's not? He'll always be there. And I think Loreley, better than any of the other presentations that have been released, showed exactly why he was so brilliant and what a great singer he was. I mean, just listen to his voice. It's as strong at the end of the show as it was when we started. It was just a force of nature. And he was such a wonderful man, and it's so sad that we won't be seeing him again. But we do have some great performances on film, and
Absolutely.
we must be thankful for that.